It's not the normal good afternoon, good morning, good evening. It's good afternoon. I am talking with, and this will be the first edition of the Drones Club. If you don't know what the Drones Club is, have a look at some Jeeves and Worcester books and look for that PG Wodehouse. Anyway, hashtag number one, the Drones Club. And we're with Tom Sargent and Callum Holland, and they are from Thales, and they have some very, very fancy titles. Gentlemen, do you want to tell us your fancy titles before we go any further?
Yeah, they're kind of a little bit ridiculous, but I'm the growth hacker for Soarizon by Thales, and Cal.
And I'm the flight operations manager for Soarizon by Thales.
And Soarizon, what does that mean? It's one solution in infinite possibilities. I read off your website here.
Yeah.
It's surely it's just another ground control station, isn't it? What else can it be?
It is, yeah, that's part of what it does. It's quite a difficult thing to describe because it does such a broad range of stuff, but we call it the sort of end-to-end drone tool. So it does everything from client management and CRM tools, right the way through flight planning and risk assessments and all the very drone expert level stuff, all the way through to the end where you do normal business things like invoicing and customer management support stuff. So it's the end-to-end process of all of that. So yeah, it is a little bit ground control, it's a little bit risk assessment, it's a little bit CRM, it's all in one.
I think you'd be the only platform doing that out there, won't you? I don't think there's another one from Intel, isn't there? That doesn't do that. There's lots of things that do different bits of that piece, but not all of the piece. So if I'm a client, then ring, hello on the telephone. Can from the moment I pick up the phone to you, do you start the process? Can you bring me into the system and consider the flights? Maybe, well, we haven't spoken about this. So how does that work? Work me through that.
Exactly that, yeah. So whether it's a phone call or an email or whatever, LinkedIn message, you can start populating the Soarizon sort of tool with information. So things like names and contacts and emails and phone numbers if you want, and then descriptions about the job and dates and time. You can do the sort of capture all the job details in essentially a ticket within the tool. And then that doesn't have to necessarily be a drone expert that does that. It can be an admin sort of person, front desk kind of person. And then eventually it will make its way into the faces of an actual drone expert, someone who knows the aviation world, and they can start, annotating and adding information that's relevant to drones and aviation. They might be the one that's performing the flight. It might be a colleague of theirs. It might go out as an open tender for business. So it's all about building up that story about what is the requirement from the client's point of view and how do we get it all the way through to the data at the end. That's what they really care about.
I guess I could consolidate all of that into maybe a real life example. It's probably the best way of explaining what we're doing here. So my background, I ran a commercial drone company for 4 years myself. Back in the day where everything was very manual and analog. So your risk assessments, your method statements, your pilot logs, your battery logs, they were all done on either Microsoft Word, Excel, paper and pen, and all filed away. There's two problems that causes. One of them is the ability to have a good auditability of what you're doing. So it's difficult to account for your actions when you've got different documentations all over the place. So take, for instance, if the CAA were to audit you, in your organization, you'd be rummaging for bits of paper. That's the first problem that I've come across. But the problem that really cut me deep in terms of the restrictions placed on me was my inability to scale my operations. So I gained quite a big following in terms of people that would contract me to fly a drone on their behalf for some form of data acquisition. Because of the way I was handling my processes, and they were so cumbersome, it wasn't the ability to go out and fly that was holding my business back. It was the ability to manage all of the back-end processes in one place. So you've got the auditability element and you've got the scalability element that Soarizon's trying to resolve here.
And that's really what gave birth to Soarizon was when you really become a good drone operator, not only do you have to have this industry sort of level of expertise, you've also suddenly burdened with knowing how to run a business and do all of the customer. All you want to do is go and fly and do what you love, but you've got this burden put on top of you. So we're really trying to elevate some of that and help people.
So it sounds like a system then that you've got somebody on reception, shall we say, for argument's sake, who's populating, must be a database of some sort within the company, and then the pilot and each person in the food chain can contribute where they are, and then I guess the boss can sign it all off. You know, he can look at the product of what everybody's done.
Yeah, so the beauty there is it's completely tailorable. So it's tailorable from a, let's take it, a one-man or one-woman band that's just got their PFCO. They can manage the end-to-end process themselves. So they can be the person that initially captures that client contact all the way up through to execution. Or it could be a large-scale enterprise organization where that initial capture for that request for data is done by somebody sat in the office that isn't necessarily the person that's going to fly it. So it's very tailorable to the specific organization.
Yeah.
So then you're scaling with the same system. You know, you started this as a small operator, and because you've become very successful now, you've got people all over the country operating for you. So I'm assuming you can, and just tell me if I'm wrong here, you've sorted out all the paperwork and that's done, and Joe in Aberdeen is doing a flight, and you just fire off at Joe the information he needs. This is where it is, what it is, why it is. And I don't know, does it pull weather in? I mean, what sort of things does it pull in? That's moving off topic a little bit, isn't it? But also on the flight planning. So, you've got the business side, and then on the flight planning side for Joe in Aberdeen, what would Joe in Aberdeen see?
So he will get as he's going through, he'll get live up-to-date NOTAM information and airspace information. He'll get weather information from a few different sources. He can go in and inspect that and sort of drill down into that information for the specific area that he's in. And then once he's sort of at the point of making the decisions and starting to build on top of the information that he's already got, he can draw on the map, he can annotate, he can identify takeoff and landing points, any potential hazards, he can measure things on there to work out how far away stuff is. All of that, if he's the one performing the flight, or he knows the people that are performing the flight, he'll be able to align that with his current operations manual so that he's planning in a way that aligns with his process. So when he's actually in the field, he's got everything he needs.
So it's not. Is it a tool that someone that had I don't know if I want to say this. I'm going to say this. That stood up some sort of website that said, book our drones anywhere in the country, available for whatever price to do jobs. That sort of sounds like that sort of outfit could do their scheduling via it and send it off to individual PFCOs under their exact command or control.
If they had a network of pilots that they trusted enough within the system, it could be used to do that. Yeah, you could sort of delegate work all over the country if that's what you wanted to do.
So you've got the business side. We've sent the details off to the pilot operator to go and do the flight. What can it do for him or her when they are in flight?
So that's a very good question. We, at the moment, in the current state of the platform, we've decided to essentially step back from the pilot and let him or her do what they do best when they're flying. Not too many distractions. There's a little bit of information about sort of local authorities to contact and local airspace, but mostly we don't interact too heavily with them during the flight. In the future, and hopefully something that will be coming relatively soon, sort of end of Q2 this year, we will be able to start interacting with the drone, depending on manufacturer and model, to start pulling back telemetry data live, video data live, that then can be shared with someone else in the team that's not necessarily a drone expert. They might be a close visual inspection expert for wind turbines. They can be sat in Doncaster and doing an inspection in Aberdeen and looking through the eye of the pilot essentially and doing their part of the whole workflow. So that's something that's coming shortly, and we've got a few partners that we're working with to sort of provide those features that will be really exciting. We're really looking forward to doing that. For a long time, we've wanted to get stuck into the in-flight parts because that's where all the sexy stuff is, and we're starting to finally get to a place where we can do that. Yeah.
So just to expand on that a little bit, I think what we need to be really careful about as an industry and a network of professional pilots, when you're driving a car, you don't look at your phone. When you're flying something in the sky, we don't want to incentivize you to look away from the aircraft.
Sure.
There's stuff we can do there in terms of, there might be some regurgitation of emergency procedures should you need them.
Yeah.
But the real stuff about in-flight that's coming soon is about supporting that larger organization that might want a real-time view of that data being collected.
Right.
There's lots of things we could do that would sound really good on paper in terms of supporting a pilot in flight. They're not necessarily the best things to do in terms of promoting safety.
And good day to David Walters. I see in the comments there, David from Altitude Angel, of course. So that very nicely enables me to say, is it connected to any UTMs?
So, very good question, and thanks for asking, David. So there is a sort of, I don't know what the word is to use here, but there's kind of a industry-wide sort of debate going on about what needs to happen for UTM and what needs to be provided to the pilots in order to help the industry keep evolving and moving forward. And the mindset of Soarizon as a team, as a project, as a product is that we want to try and remain relatively agnostic so that the pilot person using it has the choice of what provider they want to use.
Sure.
So our aim is to essentially create a way of integrating with as many different options as we can, whether that would be Altitude Angel, any other product, any other provider. At the moment, outside of the Soarizon development and outside of the Soarizon sort of pieces of work, there's other projects going on within Thales to develop different UTM solutions, different airspace solutions.
That's what I was fishing for. It's exactly what I was fishing for.
So the way that we see it in Soarizon is that Soarizon is potentially a gateway or a broker to connect to these other services. It's not going to be the one that will develop the services as it stands. So hopefully in the future we'll be able to offer, well, potentially 10s, 20 different options to the pilot, and they can say, I'm flying in France today, I'm going to use this UTM. I'm flying in UK, I'm going to use this UTM.
And let's caveat that a little bit too. The industry is going through an enormous amount of change, and our direction, as an industry, us as experts, are trying to lead that direction. I think what's really important here is we promote, with the fantastic guys at Altitude Angel. Thanks for watching. This is about collaboration, not competition. Sure. We should be working together. We're in this game because we are here to. We're excited. We want to promote drone use. We want to make it. We want to unlock the true potential of what we in this room know drones can do. And we're not going to do that unless we work together as one big family. So this is about collaboration, not competition.
Yeah, that's the way we've always sort of seen it. And that goes outside of the UTM world as well. There's lots of incredible apps and developers out there that are producing amazing features that we want to just be able to add to the arsenal of any drone pilot very easily.
So we've done the flight and it's all gone very, very well. So we're going to be home in time for tea and medals. After flight, what happens then? What can the product do for me after we've done the job?
Yeah. Sure. So there's obviously a very important part of your drone operations as they stand today is post-flight logging. So we know we need to capture several bits of information post-flight. If there was no incident, we need to capture the fact that there were no occurrences or instances that I need to report from an audibility perspective. We've obviously got our post-flight checklist that we need to go through, which we support in the platform. And then there's the very simple everyday stuff. So in terms of recording flight hours, battery monitoring, that's something that will be coming into the platform very shortly.
So at the moment, you can record all of this in the sort of history of the job relatively easily. But what we would like to do is make that even smoother. And this comes in with the live telemetry pieces we were talking about earlier, where once you've landed, you fill out a quick sort of brief about how everything went, click a button. The processes suck all the information off the drone. You can see a flight path, you can see footage, whatever it is that you were doing for that job, whether it's footage or images or 3D modeling, whatever, then that next phase of the work sort of gets kicked off. Because at the end of the day, the data that is gathered through the flight is what's really important. It's how do you get that over to the customer and the people that need it quickly and effectively.
It's very often the missing piece, isn't it? Nice comment from David there. I'll put that back up again. But yeah, that's the missing piece, isn't it? It's not about the drones. It's not about the fanciness and look how clever I am. I can fly a drone. It's about the data. That's the bit that seems to be. That's
why we do what we do. It is the data. And
having said that, the drones are definitely the most fun bit of the whole process because.
Well, yeah, I know. I know. But
I think that's something we're going to realise this year. How do we elicit the true potential of the data that we attain from these aircraft? The aircraft, the drone, is a novel method of putting a sensor in a place that you couldn't put something else. So it's a data acquisition tool.
Yeah.
So how do we squeeze this? It's like squeezing an orange. How do we squeeze as much out of this data as possible? Be it analytical or lots of different things we can do with it. We need to step change and start supporting the pilot, supporting the enterprise, supporting that large scale drone operation. The UTM shall be, but let's not forget about why we're doing it. We're doing it because of the data. So that's something else we're heavily focused on trying to exploit, for use of a better phrase.
Yeah, it's very good.
I'll just drop it in. If you happen to be watching on LinkedIn, the platform has told me, because I'm seeing comments from YouTube, but I'm not seeing comments from LinkedIn because the platform's telling me LinkedIn's not allowing comments at the moment. So, so we'll have to look at that afterwards. I don't put it up because I get terrible feedback. So so we've done a flight. We've got. I know what I was going to ask. So you mentioned battery monitoring and stuff like that. Can the boss set up reports to say that? That Tom here, he's a dreadful flyer. I can see that by the way the batteries are ripped in each time he flies. Look at the condition of the batteries. Is there sort of report monitoring and stuff like that for management terms?
One of the sort of recurring themes that comes out of all of the pilots we sort of talk to and all the users we talk to is that they love what they're able to do, but they need a better way of communicating what it is that they're doing up necessarily to managers and stuff. So we feel it in our jobs as well. And one of the things that we've put in is a way to communicate all of these things. So you can build a sort of report around each pilot about, sort of number of missions flown, hours flown, to make sure that they're keeping on top of their workload and things. And then you can also start to fold in some of that sort of auxiliary intelligence, things like flight logs, battery monitoring, maintenance reports, even down to the models that they're using. If you are lucky enough to be able to have a fleet of equipment, you'll be able to see that, Dave always works best with a Mavic Pro. Let's make sure there's one available for him for his flights. Whatever it is, you can sort of start to get some intelligence behind your work and hopefully just drive some decisions off the back of that. Yeah.
I think it's again, it's another sort of one of the missing bits of the jigsaw at the moment is good fleet monitoring, just for the sake of your own back pocket, to make sure you're not putting money in the wrong places, and stuff like that. So, how long has the project been going for?
Yes, it's a really good question. So, I'm actually one of the people that started on this very, very first. It's had a lot of different names and it's been under a lot of different things within the company. But so for the last year or so, it's been Soarizon as we know it. There was a bit of sort of preliminary research and sort of MVP work that happened before that. So say all in all, the project's been running for about 2 years, but the product has only been around for about the last year. So you're about a year old, I think. It's about a year.
Just under a year. Just under a year. We've been in the market. We haven't properly heavily marketed the product. I don't think probably 8 months ago we started doing that.
Yeah.
We only recently launched commercially into Europe towards the end of 2019, I believe. October 2019. So we're young in the market in terms of product offering, but from the initial conceptualization, we're relatively mature.
Yeah.
The beauty of Thales here is that we haven't had to rush anything to market, right? We've been given leeway and time to get things right. So
I've
the
got to
logging
ask,
is a perfect example. Yeah.
But you're working with Thales now. They've got lots of toys, lots of toys from Mavic to bigger toys. Is it being used in that fleet? Is that part of your job, Callum?
So my role as flight operations manager within, well, it's actually Thales UK. That's for our permission for commercial operations. So sub 20 kilos for commercial purposes. Obviously, Thales as an organization in Thales UK and Thales globally flies much bigger, much faster, much more expensive things than anything we'll be flying in the sub 20 kilo range. And you know, those guys that fly our big aircraft, so I'm talking up to a ton, that's done with the same sort of legislative process and CAA schemes as manned aviation.
Yeah.
So certificate of airworthiness, proper pilot licensing. So it's a different ball game. So it's an interesting thing. It's been an interesting dynamic working with those teams because they're very much used to that side of things. We're putting stuff in the sky that weighs an awful lot, and we're having to treat it like it's a manned aircraft. And then Soarizon steps in, and we're trying to introduce the world in, the Thales world into, well, there's this commercial sector that exists for sub 20 kilograms aircraft that don't necessarily have to follow those processes. And you know,
it's a bigger market. It's a bigger market than the other stuff.
It's certainly a different market to what traditional Thales is used to. So it's been an exciting journey.
But there's been a lot of lessons learned from there, because some of the guys in bigger Thales that are flying this high-end equipment, they've been doing it for 20 years, and they've seen it all. They've so many lessons and tips and tricks to learn, or know that they've learned that they can pass on to us. And that's when you go through the Soarizon product, you can see and feel some of that industry knowledge being distilled into it, and it's something we encourage and keep doing. And very much what Callum does is tries to find that fine line between what is good at a commercial level with the sort of smaller enterprise sort of things versus what's overkill that they do in the big game, and it's walking that fine line about what needs to be where and for who.
I can't think I should have done some research before we started, but they do have a few sub 20 kilo products, don't they? There's a couple of things over in France that they've got in the fleet and around and about.
So you know, we have lots of products. We predominantly used for a lot of its military applications, search and rescue, ISR. So not anything that would necessarily need to be flown within the context of confines of PFCO in the UK. But you know, there's stuff we're still finding out that's being built. I mean, that's the thing with being part of such a massive organization, and it's a nice thing that that we're trying to do here. We're trying to pull together the whole sort of Thales brand ecosystem of everything we're doing with drones, with UAS, because there is so much there, all over the globe. How do we pull it all together?
Have you got a potential to pull in their counter UAS feeds into your system for your? Well, that I suppose that'll fit into your UTM piece.
Yeah. It's been discussed, and it's always an ongoing discussion, and I'm sure that it will happen at some point. It's just sort of when and where will that first happen. Like Callum said, we have such a broad portfolio of different products, both at a military level and a commercial level. What you tend to find is that it always trickles down, and eventually, it may take a little bit longer than you hope for. It ends up in front of the right people at the right time, which is excellent. And I will say, credit where credit's due. A lot of big organizations really struggle to change the way that they work, sort of transform to allow this digital sort of revolution and this new modern revolution to like pierce through the middle of their portfolio. But Thales has been so supportive of our development and so helpful. There really haven't been any conversations where we've said, oh, you know, we do this and you guys do this, why don't we work together? And people have turned away and said, no. They've always been very on board. So there's a lot of things in the pipeline that's going to be really exciting for drones and drone users in 2020 and 2021. There's a lot of stuff coming out.
I'm personally looking forward to it. Well, maybe we can touch on what you think is going to happen in the future shortly. But while it sits in my head, or while it's just jumped into my head, I was thinking, okay, so you've inspected some critical infrastructure, some information of which and about and around which you're a little bit worried about as a company.
Mhm.
And where's it going to be shared with? Who's it going to be shared with? And how's it going to be stored? Because even I guess the just the flight plan and stuff like that is important. Let alone the actual data sets themselves. If you end up running data sets, so what happens to the data?
So this is a really good question, actually. And when we talk about key differentiators within the market, I think certainly up there in the top three for us, for Soarizon by Thales, is the work we put around securing every bit of information that goes onto the platform. You wouldn't believe the amount of resources, time, effort, and money that goes in just to make sure that anything any of our customers puts anywhere near the Soarizon platform is as much as possible not going to be hacked. We do penetration tests very often, on a whole host of things to ensure that that data you can trust it's on there. And we're talking to police services, police constabularies, and other people that would be very concerned, and rightly concerned, about their personal sensitive information being put on the platform. And so far across the board, we've been getting 2 thumbs up once we share how we deal with that.
So I'll quickly caveat. So Thales is very well known for its aviation sort of pedigree and the history it has. Another thing it's very well known for is cybersecurity. They're one of the world leaders in sort of anything cybersecurity, whether it's bank transactions, financial institutions, comms, you name it. They're also involved in that. So luckily for us, those two things go really well hand in hand. So we've been able to secure and assure that all the customer and user data that we have in the platform is locked away to the highest degree that can be.
And we're fairly confident there's no other customer out there like us that's secure.
Yeah.
So, well, actually, 2 questions. So, me as small co, what happens? Do I have a sort of siloed area, a bit of a server that is the data for my company, and that's that? Or how do you ensure that data stays linked to me? And the second part of that question is, do you pinky swear promise that Thales isn't going to be looking to see where all the jobs are to then go and get them? I know someone will ask that.
No, that is a very, very good question, and we're going to be quite blunt and honest and say absolutely we aren't going to be looking at your information like that at all. What you do and how you fly and the way that you conduct yourself is very much your own information, and we are not going to ever sort of change the way that we do that. It's in the sort of core sort of 3 pillars that we sort of operate on. And as for the first question, the way that the data is separated and segmented is done depending on the type of data. So we can't just spin up instances over and over again for every user we have, but there's always a separation between individuals, and we have a lot of layers. There's a whole system and whole stack per user of security measures in place per type of data. It's quite hard to do without getting out a whiteboard and drawing it on. But we are always happy to explain in-depth detail, but I could talk about it for hours, basically.
Just to add a little bit of credence to this, our database, for example, it is heavily restricted in terms of who has access to it within Soarizon, and the individual that does has a high-level security clearance. So that's an official, Her Majesty's government security clearance.
Right.
So that's the kind of level of security we're talking about here.
Yeah. Well, it's quite a hot topic in America at the moment, and it's going to be quite a hot topic all over the place. And you've got to think about it both for the customer and then for your own business's sake. Should something dreadful happen and you're caught in the middle of it, and you'll catch some of the crossfire, even though you don't mean to.
Absolutely.
It's a terrible place to be. So it's scalable, because I've started with my Phantom and I get Tom and Callum to fly for me, and I can then send you out on jobs from my centralized database with the paperwork scored away for the start, the middle, and the end of the whole exercise. I can set up some reporting so that when the huge company buys us out and we all make a fortune, go off and live in an island, they'll have the next level of next level of reporting before they've bought us out, or their management sort of reports? What else can it? What am I missing? Is there anything else I'm missing that it can do for me?
So one of my favorite features in the platform is, we touched on it briefly, is the auditability. Is that a word? Auditability. So if you have multiple people working on different sections of your sort of process, you can see what they've done and what they've changed. So we always keep a history of the things that have changed. So you can essentially roll back and revert. Now that's one useful part. But what that does is you're then able to start to, over time, see the different ways that you're working. So if you do a lot of similar missions, one after the other, you can sort of see if there's anything that's being conducted differently, and then sort of understand why. It might lead to an improvement in your own process. You might see that, Caroline has come up with a new way to do her risk assessment. She does it in half the time that everybody else does it. Maybe we need to have a conversation with Caroline to see what we can do and how we can teach the others to do it. So I think that's a pretty cool feature, is that you can sort of see the intentions of everybody involved and sort of dig into it a little bit more.
So I want to try this, give it a go. What's it going to cost me?
So it always comes down to money, doesn't it? At the moment, we're operating on a freemium premium model. So essentially, you can sign up for free today, and you can fly 5 missions every month for free. They don't roll over. You know, if you leave it for 2 months, you don't get 10 missions. You've got five missions in a calendar month, essentially, or in 30 days. And you can do that forever if you want. You can then go up to the premium tier, which comes with a couple of extra benefits, such as you can sort of do all of your planning and stuff in 3D rather than on a 2D map. There's other.
You've got unlimited missions.
Yeah, but that's the main thing. You get unlimited missions. You no longer have that 5 mission cap.
You've got the ability to connect with crew members. So let's say, for instance, you subcontract work, or you've got, I know when I ran my company, I had 6 or 7 local drone operators. We were all our separate entities, but friends. We knew each other. If there was a job that I was asked to do and I was flying somewhere else that day, well, I would let my friend Josh know that this is available. Yeah. But this way, connected through crews on Soarizon Go Plus, I can communicate that information to him. He can see it. I can see what he's doing, and vice versa. So then I've got auditability with the customer at the same time.
You start to build up a little network, essentially, of people that you trust, and then who knows, maybe in the future when.
Sorry, you carry on. You carry on, Tom. Sorry, I jumped in.
The idea is that we want to encourage people to start to build these communities of trustworthy pilots across the world, and the aim being that in the future, if for whatever reason you want to move away from doing a one-man band and start to sort of form together and maybe form a little organization together, you've already got all of that history and all of that contact network built up. So in the future, when it becomes harder and harder to be a one-man band individual pilot, you've already got this to lean on. You've already got a community, which is essentially a little network.
We're at that.
So that's one of the other benefits you get.
I think we're at that future. I think quite a few companies have realised the usefulness of RPAS, building companies, construct whatever, surveyors of some sort, and they're going in-house. They would have got in that PFCO a couple of years ago just to have a little go. All right, well, let's have a little go. Let's see if it's any use. Oh, it is. All right, we'll have our own. So that sort of work is beginning to dry up. I think around the world it's beginning to dry up as companies grow up and realise they can bring it in-house and do it themselves. So perhaps you're pitching this at exactly the right time. And if
it would seem so. If it was designed that way.
But does it tell us that that's the idea? I've got to look harder at your website. I'm not sure it tells us that's the idea.
I mean, I just want to caveat this a little bit. I don't want any pilot or operator or small business to get sort of, I don't want to lose hope of what they're doing, because the market trend is that more industry are bringing these operations in-house. That's fine. As a pilot and a small business owner, as I was, as these big organizations begin to bring these operations in-house, well, that's going to create jobs for people like you. They're going to need experts like you to run the business. Yeah. You're going to lose the stress of running your own business, which I'm all too aware of how stressful it can be. You're going to be part of a bigger organization with more resources, more fun kit to play with, better aircraft. They're going to need flight operating managers. They're going to need the work. So don't fear the change. It's just what I say to the pilots listening to this today. It's a good thing. It's a good thing.
The way that we see the cruise part of Soarizon is essentially a stepping stone to that. You're not out there on your own as an individual. You're not necessarily in-house a big existing organization. You're your own little crew that you've made of in-house effectively pilots, and it's a nice stepping stone towards it.
No, it's I love it. It's a very, very good idea, and perhaps far be it from me to say, but perhaps you need to work on selling that bit of it a bit more.
Absolutely.
This sounds like a really good idea.
We're very aware that we're still relatively young in the market, and it's why we're doing things like talking with you today. Is we really want to work out a better way to communicate what it is that we've built. Essentially,
it's difficult to communicate something that people haven't heard of before. We're learning every day.
Yeah, sorry, I didn't mean to be rude. Sorry, I just.
No, it's good. It's good feedback. We love it. We agree.
I'm thinking, gosh, what a very good idea, and perfectly fitted. So again, well, how do you? Is that your vision of the market then? A group of and that's my vision of the market. Certainly, stuff's moving. It's growing up. It's moving in house. People with real niche uses are coming in and using the hammer. It's just another hammer, isn't it, really, at the end of the day, in your toolbox of whatever profession you are. It's not, you can't, I don't think you can jump in and say, I'm a drone operator, I can do everything. It's a tool for professionals.
It's a constant debate. Yeah. Any day of the week in this office, everybody has an opinion about where the market's going to go and what the trends are. And there are a lot of people that agree that it's all going to sort of slowly become in-house sort of departments of drone pilots. Some people think it will go much more consultancy. Who knows? But the trends that we've seen, and we've actually just released a report about drones in 2020 that's free. So go and download it. It's got all kinds of information in. But the trend that we see is that over the last 3 years or so, it has been a decline in the number of individual pilots operating on their own, but still an increase in pilots as a whole. So they've got to be going somewhere, and they're probably going into in-house organizations together. That's what the data suggests anyway.
Is that what you mean by consultancy? I want you to unpack that a little bit more. I want to be a consultant.
Oh yeah, the consultancy one is weird. It's a bit of a weird bag, the consultancies, because it's not drone operator consultancies aren't consultants like any other industry. You have financial consultants, they're all cut and paste basically the same person. The drone operator consultants generally are very specialized in one area, whether it's agriculture or infrastructure or whatever. And that is really cool because you end up getting pockets of communities within communities of consultant experts. And then that whole little community just gets smarter and smarter and smarter as a whole. And then you'll see a big organization go, hey, look, there's a load of people over there that are really good at what I want to do. I'm going to bring them in-house. And so it's similar to the stepping stone community effect that we were talking about. We've seen people form little unity groups around a specialism, and then eventually they become in-house pilots. So yeah, it's a really exciting place for drone experts at the moment because they are really the people holding all the cards, and they can decide where they want to go, whether they want to go into in-house or they want to, go it on their own and really, really smash it out of the park. And you see some organizations out there that are absolutely mind-blowing at what they're doing, and they're going home with big bucks in the back of their pockets, satisfied customers, and cool new tech, and they're just winning at the moment. We love it.
Very good. That's a very good answer. That's a very, very good answer. But I do think you dodged the answer earlier. So we've got the free 5 flights a year. What is that upgrade costing me a month?
Yeah. So at the moment, we've got it on at £50 a month.
Okay.
We are a very data-driven sort of team here. So we are essentially in a sort of beta phase with the business model. So what we're doing is testing that price point. We're trying to work out what's a good balance between the value that the tool can deliver and what people value it at. So at the moment, we're in a stage of sort of fluidity where we're trying to test out what that price point is. So the best way for us to do that is we're giving away sort of trial periods for people and organizations. So if anybody wants to come and play, let us know. Off the back of that, we will be sort of investigating where that price point is. So it's £50 a month at the moment. We don't know if that's how long that's going to stay there for. We don't know what it's going to change to, but we're willing to trial and learn, essentially. So yeah, I mean, you could get quite a lot for free. I mean, it's different for me because I'm a very, very small operator, if I ever have the time. So I'm happy with the free package, essentially. Would suit me, but it's different for different people.
We'll just caveat that too. I realise I'm using the word caveat a lot here. We also offer enterprise-based pricing too. So, we've got the Go, which is free. We've got the Go Plus, which is £50 a month currently. And then we have enterprise customers, of which we already have onboarded. And that comes not only with the operational capability of the platform, but access to any future upgrades. It also gives access to myself, should that organization require any consultancy in order to get themselves up and running.
Yeah.
So we do have that enterprise model too, which is a bespoke pricing model, very tailorable.
Yeah. And how many people in your team have flown or are flying, have actually flown up as an operational situation?
Yeah, fantastic question. So when I joined the team, it was myself and another chap, Karim Kozlit. He's our head of growth. We were the only two operators that had flown drones before. Karim comes from a long history of UAS operations. I ran my own company for years, as I mentioned. But once we sort of become ingrained in the team and begun to learn what made our team members tick, we identified 3 individuals who were very heavily involved with customer interaction. So we've got a user experience and user design engineer. Mia, she's doing a lot of testing day in, day out with customers, with drone pilots. We've got our open innovation manager, Ben Orkin. He's talking to very high-end customers day in, day out about how do we truly realize the potential of drones. And then we've got Nick Gowndry, our product owner, ex-Tornado fast jet pilot, cool fact. He's our product owner for the actual OM capability. So we said, Karim and I sat down and went, wouldn't it be really good if we got these guys trained up and through an NQE? And that's exactly what we've done. So now they're all NQE certified pilots with hours in their logbooks on our operations manual, and we use them when we go out and flying.
They act like the jocks in the office. They walk around like they're all the big I am now. They can fly and stuff.
No, but it's good to have a company that is grounded in the reality of the operation.
Yeah,
it's really important. Really important.
Not the Silicon Valley concept or idea or
so 3D rendering. Keep that all rolling as well. Get more and more pilots as we go along. You'll find a lot of the sort of developers and things like that, whilst they won't fly commercially, they'll have a very big interest in drones anyway. We all watch like the drone racing league and stuff when it's on, so we are all big enthusiasts as well as developers.
It's good that the more training we give our team, the more autonomous they can be as individuals. The less checks I have to go through to say, this is right, this is right.
Yeah.
Mia is incredible. She now will come to me with wireframes, and because she understands the drone industry, how to fly, how to operate now, because she has this qualification. It's all there. So the more we can do that for more members of our team, the better the product's going to be.
It just makes it quicker for us as well.
Yeah. Now you mentioned you watched the drone racing and stuff, and of course yesterday we saw the guys from Flight Test flying the aerobatic urban air mobility vehicle, which makes me then think: is urban air? Oh, actually, 2 things: drone delivery. Can you do anything for me for my scheduling and stuff like that, or could you do anything for me if I was urban air mobility trying to shift people around, or is that in the plan?
So I'm going to answer each one individually. So the air mobility piece, Thales has invested a lot of money into different urban air solutions, and we are in the process at the moment of sort of working out how those will fit together with Soarizon. I'll send you a link to a very ambitious video that you can have a look at for that. And as for the delivery pieces, we've done a few sort of proof of concept delivery pieces in sort of controlled environments. And the idea is to then take the lessons learned from that and sort of distill it into expertise to go into the platform to help other people do the same thing in the future.
Just to touch on that too, a perfect example of taking things a step at a time and let's lay solid foundations is I'm sure David's still here, is the recent stuff Altitude Angel done with the African Drone Forum with their UTM offering. Absolutely fantastic. It was for a controlled environment that we had full control over, or they had full control over, and we knew what was operating there. And it's about stepping stones, and it's the same for drone delivery. There have been lots of test flights and proof of concepts, and lots of people are doing them. There's lots of individuals working with the CAA, other aviation authorities. It's all fantastic. But what we need to make sure we do is actually learn the lessons from it. It's all well and good doing it, making a shiny video and pushing it out, but what we need to do is learn the lessons. And actually begin to put it into practice. And I think this year, next year, the year after, delivery is going to come well before I think true UAM, sort of passenger UAM. I think it's the logical step, isn't it? I think people will trust their parcel in the air first, and then maybe themselves. So again, it's a journey. We're not going to get there in 12 months' time. It's about, again, talking back to David. It's about this collaboration. Let's work together. You've got UTM, we've got this, you've got that. How does it all bolt together into some synergy that actually realizes it?
And at the end of the day, the person who's getting their food delivery or Amazon delivery or whatever, they're not going to know any of this goes on in the background. They're just going to see the parcel turn up. And I think that's for a good reason as well. I think it would be overwhelming otherwise. I think it would be too much. I have no idea how DPD operate.
We don't know how the sausages get into Tesco, do we? Really, or any of the other stuff?
For good reason.
It's magic, isn't it? It's just magic.
The big stumbling block here is bringing all stakeholders on the journey with us. So it's not just a societal acceptance issue, although that is a big issue, getting societal acceptance of what we're doing. I don't think a lot of people are ready for drones over their head yet. There's then we've got to bring, so they're a stakeholder. Another stakeholder is the regulators. We've really got to begin pulling them on board and bringing them on.
For sure.
They should come with us, and they're doing a great job, especially the guys in the UK, the CAA. They want to be part of this journey with us and take all the lessons learned.
Yeah, I guess you're a big part of Future Flight. That's the big thing happening over there. You're involved. With that.
In Cranfield.
Yeah, and then I don't know if is that to corridor working yet? Is it running?
So you mentioned Cranfield. That corridor is up and running, and there's some incredible people doing fantastic stuff there. So for people that aren't aware, I'm sure your countries, your aviation authorities will have something similar. It's essentially a block of, let's call it segregated airspace, for use of a better phrase, or safe airspace that's been put there to enhance the future of UAS and drone operations. So it's a safe place for us all to play in, test new kit, test new ideas, with the intention that we then expand it out. So there's already people operating there. We do stuff there. We Thales paid to the consortium. One of our strategists, Ed Bland, he was up there last week looking at what they're doing. So some really interesting stuff. And again, the important thing this year is that
on the ground there, haven't you? Isn't there some
correct.
Thales?
It's Thales radar.
Yeah, it is Thales radar gear. I'm really miffed. I used to live in the middle of that corridor for a couple of years. I lived in a village right in the middle of that
You're
corridor.
always welcome.
I wish it had happened earlier, but there we are, because it'd be very, very interesting. Very, very interesting. Okay, I think how long we've been talking for 50 minutes here, so I think we've probably. Wow. I don't know, guys. Is there anything else you want to mention? We've probably covered. I'm not very good at wrapping things up. Have you covered everything you'd like to cover?
So I guess just one thing, just to conclude it from our side. Anybody listening to either now or in the future, if you've got any concerns, problems, blockers with regards to your drone operations, go on Soarizon.io and reach out to me. I'll pick up the emails and we'll try and resolve any issues you're having, anything like that. This isn't just about getting you onto the platform and using it. This is about assisting people using drones at the moment. So contact me. I'll do my best to help you, and we'll see where we go from there.
Whatever it is, we like to be able to sort of enable the industry. We want to see it flourish. So if you've got a crazy idea out there and you're struggling to get it off the ground, literally, reach out to us and we'll happily help.
Worldwide, I assume. You don't just have to be in the UK.
Yeah, absolutely. Worldwide.
Yeah.
Excellent. Well, Tom and Callum, thank you very much indeed for your time. I am very excited about your team's idea. That's a very, very, very good idea. I'm going to make sure I get that out there.
Excellent.
And hopefully, we can speak again in the future and find out where things are going and what's happening.
Yeah, we would love to.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Perfect. And for anyone else that stumbled across this on our YouTube channel, don't know why comments aren't working on LinkedIn, try and get that working in the future. Don't forget, we normally meet at 2100 GMT every Tuesday for our Drone and Sundry hangout full of nonsense, which we'll be doing again next week. And we're going to try and make this Drones Club bit probably a piece every Friday, more pointed towards LinkedIn. And again, if you don't know what the Drones Club is, start reading your PG Wodehouse, and you'll get the hang of it. Gentlemen, thank you very much. Until we speak again. Dear viewers, cheerio, take care, be safe, you are. Bye-bye. Bye-bye.